every opportunity to ensure that the city's procurement process remains fair, inclusive, transparent, and efficient. Now, compliance is a pivotal component of the Department of Procurement Services. It includes a three-step process. Contract goal setting would be one, compliance review of bid proposals, monitoring of the contract MW and DBE, EEO, CRO, and local requirements, as well as contract closeout. Step one, pre-award requirements. Contract goals are set on a project and project-by-project basis. In MW or DBE, direct opportunities are identified based on the scope of work and or detailed specifications. Contract goals are then inserted into each specification, and percentages can range from 0 to 100%. Proper compliance plan submittal is crucial. A bid or proposal may be rejected as non-responsive if the bidder fails to submit one or more of the following with its bid or proposal: an MW or DBE compliance plan demonstrating how the bidder's proposal plans to meet the contract-specific goals, if documentation of good faith effort is not clearly stated, and if the bidder request for reduction of waivers of the contract-specific goals is not well documented. This next slide is an explanation of schedules. Schedule B, MW or DBE affidavit of joint venture. The Schedule C, which most of you will see and should take time with as part of your review. For MW or DBE, a letter of intent to perform as a subcontractor must be included. Supplier or second-tier subcontractors, along with letters of certification for each subcontractor and a copy of the agreed proposal. The Schedule D, which is also very important for every project, is the compliance plan for the MW or DBE participation. The Schedule H is a documentation of good faith effort for construction projects and used to request a waiver of MW or DBE goals. Post-award requirements. The contract is awarded. Contract monitoring begins. The contract compliance unit has a shared responsibility with the City of Chicago user departments for monitoring participation of certified minority, women, and disadvantaged businesses. The unit is also responsible for monitoring of equal employment opportunity, Chicago residency requirement, and local residency requirements. County participation. Only payments made to MW and DBE firms that meet both the commercially useful function and area of specialty requirements will be counted toward the contract-specific goals. MW and DBE firms which self-perform by using its own workforce and equipment will receive 100% of the value of the work, and that will be accounted. That will be exactly what's counted. MW and DBE firms listed as manufacturers, 100% of the expenditures counted, and MW and DBE firms listed as a distributor or supplier, 60% of the expenditures counted. Subcontractor agreements. No later than 3 business days after the receipt of the executed contract, the contractor must execute a complete subcontractor agreement or purchase order with each MW and DBE listed on the contract Schedule B. No later than 8 days after receipt of the executed contract, the contractor must provide copies of each signed subcontract, purchase order, or agreement to the Department of Procurement Services. Any changes to the compliance plan. No no changes to the compliance plan or contractual MW and DBE commitments or substitutions of MW and DBE subcontractors may be made without a written approval from the Chief Procurement Officer. Unauthorized changes or substitutions, including performing the work designated for a subcontractor with the contractor's own forces, shall be a violation of the MW and DBE special conditions and a breach of the contract with the city and may cause termination of the executed contract for breach and or subject the contractor to contract remedies or other sanctions. No bid shopping is allowed. Reporting process. During the term of the contractor must submit partial and final waivers of lien from all of his subcontractors on construction projects. The prime and its subcontractors will be responsible for reporting payments into the city's certification and compliance system, which we call C2. The prime and subcontractors will be responsible for submitting certified payrolls, documentations into the city's certified payroll processing system, which is often referred to as LCP Tracker. C2 MW and DBE payment reporting. The city's certification and compliance system, or C2, is a network system and is a web-based tool that provides online tracking of payments made to the prime, payments made to W and DBE firms, and online verification of MW and DBE payments. Site visits. Announced and unannounced site visits are performed by field analysts, which on-site at each construction location, they meet with the resident engineer or project manager and request to receive the daily work schedules and observe the duties being performed by subcontractors and its workers. It is expected that both the contractor's employees and subcontractors will cooperate fully in the monitoring process of the field office. CPPS, the Certified Payroll Reporting System. CCPS is a completely automated web-based system specifically designed for prime contractors and subcontractors. The CPS system allows the management of labor compliance, Davis-Bacon, and prevailing wage processes. It also validates local, state, federal, Davis-Bacon, and prevailing wage regulations. Payroll data may be entered directly into the system or uploaded from major construction, accounting, and or payroll program. This eliminates the need for paper documentation to be submitted. All contracts, specific wage rates, and worker classifications are online within the system, and contractors select classifications from a menu. Potential errors in wage rates or worker classification entries are flagged to the contractors, preemptively allowing contractors to correct the data prior to submittal. Contract closeout. In the event of non-compliance and without limitation, the following shall constitute a material breach of the contract between the city and the contract and entitle the city to declare default, terminate the contract, and exercise those remedies provided for in the contract at law or in equity. 1. Failure to demonstrate good faith efforts. 2. Disqualification as an MBE or WBE contractor or any joint venture partner. Subcontractors or suppliers, if a status as an MBE or WBE was a factor in the award of the contract and such status was misrepresented by the contractor. Payments due to the subcontractor may be withheld until corrective action is taken. If the city determines that the contractor has not made good faith effort to fulfill its compliance plan, the affected MBE or WBE may recover damages from the contractor. Failure to meet the EO commitment will result in liquidated damages. Failure to meet the CRO and local residency requirements may result also in liquidated damages. And this last slide is a listing. I signed up for DPS alerts, and you want to sign up for those as soon as possible. On the site, you'll see a post of bid advertisements, an agenda, upcoming workshops and events, new policies and procedures that affect within the community. Does anyone have any questions? That was a lot of information. Nothing? And when you came to the class today, did you have something specifically that you came to find out? So you were concerned about the payments and how you were supposed to be paid. What were you concerned about the payments? So your question is twofold. Your question is, one, are you responsible for meeting the demands of the contractor when they're requesting waivers? And then the second question is whether or not, when you meet those demands, when you can expect payment. I'm going to lean toward the subcontract agreement, and the subcontract agreement should outline all of those details. I understand. As part of and reflected on the training, the overview that we just had, it explained that you were required to receive the subcontract agreement within 3 days of the executed contract, so that you understand what the expectation is for the work that's to be completed, as well as when you can expect, once you respond, when you can expect payment as well. Does that answer your question? Well, if you don't, whatever is agreed on is initially what you're supposed to receive. But as projects, and this is a plan, and it's spec'd out, and the scope of work is outlined. Once the project is in motion, now often there are changes that come from the user department that could change what the original agreement was. And an explanation has to be provided with the change of scope of work, which should outline why the work is changed. But you should also receive communication from the prime contractor letting you know what's changed
answer to that is very simple. Okay, communication. Goes back to communication. So of course, you're not going to allow the prime contractor to just come and say, hey, we're going to change, the requirement, okay, that I have signed documentation saying that I'm to perform 25%, and then I'm just going down to 20%. You're going to need written explanation for that, okay? And if you don't agree with it, then further communication, is required, okay? But you can't just let the prime contractor lower, okay, your contract goal without a valid, viable explanation. Does that make sense? All right. Thank you. Any other questions? Absolutely. Absolutely, we can. So, So basically, what Rule Lane is saying is that, okay, before a contract is awarded, of course, you have to submit a viable compliance plan, which more than likely will have either MBE, WBE, or DBE goals, okay, affixed to the contract. Now, if you have MW or DBE goals, more than likely it's going to be 25%, 5%, or 30%, okay? So, you as a prime contractor, you're going to go out, you're going to solicit, okay, work based on the scope of work of the project, various certified firms who can perform, okay, the work within their area of specialty, okay? So I mentioned, I gave the example earlier, landscaping. So say we have Christy Weber, and you're, in the scope of work, it requires landscaping. So you go out and say, hey, I can bring Christy Weber aboard, okay, to perform landscaping, okay, at 5%, okay, of the awarded contract amount, okay, all right, which in turn is a benefit to you because it lowers your bottom line, which gives you a better opportunity to win the bid, correct? So you bring Christy Weber, you communicate with Christy Weber, say, hey, we'd like you to partner with us on this particular contract to perform landscaping services, all right, at a total of 5%. All right, you ask them for a Schedule C. Christy Weber will complete that Schedule C. Okay, you'll get that Schedule C. Christy Weber will sign it. You'll sign it. That's done. You you include Christy Weber on your Schedule D. Okay. You submit that Schedule C along with Christy Weber certification and the Schedule D, okay, to the Department of Procurement Services as part of their overall contract bid, okay? So that's how it works. So Christy Weber is now part of your contract compliance plan to perform 5% of the work based on the awarded amount of the contract, okay, at 5%. Now, that can change, like we just mentioned earlier. The scope can change. You can get a contract is modified all the time. We know that. As a prime contractor, you know that change orders come through all the time, pretty much every day, multiple ones sometimes. And that change order could possibly affect the overall scope of work. And if that scope of work affects the landscaping, okay, then there's a possibility that you may have to lower that 5% that you originally agreed to bring Christy Weber aboard to perform those landscaping services. Now, you don't necessarily have to immediately lower that 5%. You can say, hey, Christy Weber may be a firm that's certified in specialty areas above and beyond landscaping. So it may be opportunity for her to perform maybe 3% of the work on the contract and landscaping, and the other 2% in other areas, maybe concrete or something like that. But the bottom line is, once you agree to that percentage, you are obligated as part of the contract to honor that. And if you can't do it, you have to submit proper documentation, as Rulin mentioned, and I think you missed that. Good faith efforts is what we call justifying the reasons why you have to lower your original percentage of 5% to the designated percentage that you feel is necessary to complete the overall project. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Well, documentation is done. Meaning, so be more specific. Okay, and I'll help you with that. So you're saying that, say if you partner with a prime contractor on a contract and you haven't signed, you complete your Schedule C, but you haven't completed a subcontract agreement. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Scale back on the work that you originally agreed to perform? So the work's done. The project's complete.
I'm saying that it's complete, and nothing really has been changed about it. The only thing that has changed is that they have decided that, well, maybe they're not going to give you 25%.
Well, what would happen at that point if the contract is closed out, or the project is done, and our department has received the necessary documentation from the user group, and we start in DPS our contract procedures, and we go through and we make certain that the prime contractor has fulfilled their obligation by meeting those goals that are in the contract, and if we determine that they have not, potential liquidated damage. Well, let me say, before I say that, we give the prime contractor an opportunity to come back and say, hey, this is why we did not meet these goals. We have to do that as part of the contract. So if and when the contractor, okay, has to submit the good faith efforts and submits those good faith efforts, and we evaluate them and we determine, hey, there just wasn't an opportunity for that 25%. And they unfortunately didn't let the subcontractors know, and we wouldn't necessarily know that unless you all contacted our department to let us know. We would just go on the documentation that we requested from the prime contractor to say, okay, good faith efforts have been made and no damages will be assessed. I hope that makes sense. So I think the bottom line here is that you constantly stay in communication with your prime contractor, and if you notice before the contract is complete that you're getting less work than you originally agreed to, then phone calls, meetings, things like that, going to your subcontract agreement or statement of work, you know, talking to your prime contractor to see basically what's going on and how can we remedy the situation if there's in fact a situation that needs to be remedied.
Yeah, but that can only change through a change order, so she will know right away if her contract amount changes because she's going to get a change order that says
True.
it's being reduced by a certain amount, and the prime contractor may not need her 25% to meet his goal because maybe he had already exceeded the 25% with another subcontractor. Because the prime contractor is only obligated to meet the goal throughout the entire project.
True.
He could do it with just one subcontractor.
He can.
And doesn't need more than that.
You are correct.
Maybe she's there and, you know, it helps the prime contractor meet instead of 25, 50%.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, when the job is finished, they decided not to do a portion of her work, so they sent her a change order, and she's going to get the 25%. But the prime contractor.
That's not what it's based on. It's not based on necessarily the prime deciding that we no longer need the contract.
No, it's the work. Not her 25%, it's the work.
But it's not the prime contractor making that decision, though. It is the user department that has decided that we don't need that work done for whatever changes. It's not the prime saying, I'm assessing the situation as I'm out there completing the job, and I decided I no longer need your 25%. That would have to come from the user department. If it did not, then this project, there would not be an explanation of good faith effort that the prime could provide because the prime has then decided on its own to change the scope of work, and that situation is not supported in the project.
And if I could just add,
Sure.
so to your point, it really comes down to you not being fully utilized for what you said, right? So whether it's a dollar amount or a percentage, however we want to look at it, she's not utilized. So yes, of course, the first line of attack is go back to the prime. Why aren't we using B? We should be using B. Here's our sub-agreement. This is what we need to do. But to realize, when you mentioned this earlier, is utilizing us, reaching out to the compliance officer or whomever is working with you to assist you in having those conversations, because that's what we will use to help facilitate, to ensure, is this a contractor that's making these decisions on their own when they don't have the ability to? Or is there some change, a work order, right? What's actually going on? Because what a contractor can say versus the reality, it can be different. And so we want to help bring it together before the contract is closed, before the project is ended, so as to ensure that everyone is utilized the way they should, if not more. I hope that.
I mean, that helps definitely. But to this, right.
I will respectfully disagree.
And hey,
No, it's because I didn't say that the prime contractor is going to change the scope of the work, but the means and methods are by the prime contractor, as long as he meets the plans and specs that have been contracted to that. let's say that she is contracted by me originally to do flat work, just concrete flat work. The contract is $1 million. Then I have the foundation contractor doing, which is also a minority contractor company. At that time, he's pouring. I decide, you know what? You here, keep pouring. I didn't change the drawings. I didn't change the project. All I did is means and methods. I decided to use that guy to pour the flat work instead of her, and I only gave her maybe a portion of it. Then I will send her a change order saying your work has been reduced by this much. You're only going to use this much. I didn't think that I am obligated to fulfill a contract amount with somebody once I sign it, because at any time you can issue change orders and say, you know what, your work is, I never said I'm going to decide not to pour this slab.
Sure.
What I decided to do is that I'm going to use maybe somebody that is going to make it easier for me to finish the job faster by having that person there. I do that work, pay him, still meet my minority requirements, but the contract is going to be there.
So the contract, and the requirements, an explanation of why you took that action, you determine, and whether or not it's accepted in the department procurement services determinations to whether or not you actually.
Right.
What you're doing is as this decision to decide who's going for the contract, even if they do exactly the same thing, should be more standardized. You know, for as far as the goal setting and what we do here, it's not, it is based on the work, the requirements and the commitments as far as not only the work concerned, but the signs and realistic purposes to see the subcontract agreement and all the preliminary work that's done in advance of the project actually being
Absolutely.
So you can't right, contract. To be able to say, well, they're good, they can do it faster, in my opinion, is insufficient to be able to say, I'm using this firm versus her who's right and able and approved to all that. And I would not agree to that being a good thing. So in the end, we have to pay.
There's a strong possibility. So, I mean, as part of your explanation, you would submit all your documentation and explanation that you explained, and then as Bridget stated, you know, she would, or the Department of Procurement Services would evaluate it and probably say that you did not meet good faith efforts, changing, just arbitrarily changing.
Changing the contract like that, you have to explain that you were able to save time and money in the contract and still pay her. You can still pay her and save that.
Well, if he still pays her the 25% for work that she didn't do, but
What if I cannot get her to come and pour when I need her?
well then, yeah, that's an issue. That's definitely an issue. That's definitely an issue, and we would, yeah, we would support that.
I'm new at the public work,
Well, these questions are great. This definitely sparks a going back and forth, which is what we like. Because we have a little bit over 15 minutes, so, you know, that's good. Any other questions?
I thought this was supposed to be from 2:30 to 3:30.
2 to 3.
There's 2 to 3 today, because we have 2 workshops today. The second workshop is starting at 15 on contract payments. So this is the first time that we've done the workshop of contract payments. This is the first day that we think that client documentation with the contract payments.
Yes.
So most workshops we start at 2:30, so whenever we do 2 workshops at a time, we start at 2.
The emails are hesitating to tell me that.
So, I mean, 2:30 is the start time.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you do this again, you should watch that because I'm gonna check it. Huh? Well, you know, you can register online, so I went registered, and then, I'll tell you in a second, because,
And we can do a highlight overview tonight.
Right, we'll in a few.
no, just, I was just,
Yeah.
so it doesn't happen again, or, you know, whatever, but.
Sure. Okay.
Well, I hope you all stay for the second half, because we're gonna talk about payment, and what to do as a sub, you don't get paid.
Prime and a sub.
We just can't start early, because I should have people registered for 3:15. So we will start the, second workshop at 3:15, but, Elaine can go and highlight.
Absolutely.
As a compliance officer, I'd like to highlight some points that I think are always kind of overlooked. You know, that are they're very important as far as the processing is concerned. And closer. An overview of compliance documentation, and a couple slides that I would pull out would be starting with the this is probably the one I can't get to. This one. Yes. The compliance is a pivotal component. The introduction is part of the introduction. It includes the three-step process, which is compliance goal setting, which we kind of talked about in your example. Compliance review of the bid proposal, monitoring of the contract, MWDBE, EOCRO, and contract closeout. Contract goals are set on a project-by-project basis. Direct opportunities are identified based on the scope of work or detailed specifications. The contract goals are then inserted into each contract, and percentages can range from 0 to 100%. Proper compliance plan submittal is crucial, and this is one of the things that I review when I review the contracts for compliance. The bid proposals are usually rejected as non-responsive because more than often than not, the bidders don't demonstrate their plans to meet their contract-specific goals. The documentation of good faith effort is also crucial because the documents are there, but they're not clearly stated. Also, if the bidder requests for reduction of the waivers, the contract-specific goals are not documented. The next slide is schedules. This is where we run into a lot of issues as far as the schedules are concerned. The Schedule B, if there's a joint venture involved, not so much the joint venture, that one's clearly hammered out and stated because you know at the beginning that this is a requirement. The two that we have the biggest issue with, or that I run across with the biggest issues, are the Schedule C and the Schedule D. The Schedule C for the subcontractors, what's not listed on the Schedule C are clearly stated, specified as it relates to what's going to actually be completed on the project. There are also sometimes there's some mathematical issues as to the percentages, and also as it relates to the work that's going to be done, as it relates to the proposal. The Schedule D for the prime contractor is also missing information occasionally, and this will slow, or it will, that's okay. It would cause in this instance, it would cause the bid to be rejected as non-responsive. The Schedule H is also very important when you want to display good faith efforts, especially with construction projects. A lot of information is often missing, other than sometimes it's just stated that a waiver is requested, and that's not quite enough information. That once the contract award is awarded, then compliance monitoring begins. For subcontractors, this is very important because we review in compliance the contract for compliance, but it's important that you have a relationship with the prime contractor, especially if you're the subcontractor, to make sure that what you're committing to is being done. You have an opportunity to go out to the site. Again, it's important that you communicate with the prime contractor, especially if you suspect something. Counting participation. Another issue that is often ran into once the contract is awarded is because you're a subcontractor and you have agreement with the prime contractor, you often don't lean on your agreement. You would lean more toward whatever the prime is actually asking you to do. And if you're not, as far as an MW and DBP firms, the issue that we have with commercial useful function, and as far as your area of specialty regarding your certification, whatever your area of specialty is in your certification, that's what you should commit to. Self-performing, if you're a manufacturer, you get 100%, and if you're a distributor or supplier, it's always at 60%. Subcontractor agreements, and these are overlooked as well. You have agreement with the prime contractor, you should have your subcontract agreement once the contract is executed no later than 3 business days. And if you don't have it, then you're obliged to contact them to receive it. This is the other issue we have with changes to the compliance plan. Often the changes that, in your example, is a prime contractor changing the compliance plan. The prime contractor cannot change the compliance plan without approval, Chief Procurement Officer. I also have examples of unauthorized and the actions taken. We also have a couple of monitoring systems that allow and support us the monitoring of the payments. The C2 system allows us to monitor and check to see if you're meeting your goal. But your requirement as a subcontractor and the prime is to make sure you report the payments. We have quite a few contracts and it's difficult, and we have some checks and balances in place, but if you feel that the goals are not being met, then you can contact us. Certified Payroll Monitoring System is a new system that allows that restricts the limit to the use of paper payrolls. So paper payrolls are no longer accepted by the City of Chicago Department of Procurement Services, and the Certified Payroll Monitoring System allows us to monitor the payrolls in real time. It saves a lot of time as far as we can review any reporting as far as EEO and CRO requirement, and we can do it in real time, which is what we weren't able to do before. If you have any issues as far as that's concerned, you can contact us as well. And I support the use of the City of Chicago website. By reviewing the website, it has a lot of information on there. In addition to the workshops, it gives you bid advertisement and opportunities, and also provides policy information and any changes. Did anybody come with any specific questions? Do you have any specific questions? Sure.
All right, so going back to the Schedule C, some of the challenges that we have when we review the compliance plan, to eliminate this, I would highlight the importance of outlining the work that you're doing and how it coincides with your area of specialty within that area, or your certification. So therefore, and one word description, 2 word descriptions, I believe we push it back. I need a better description of the work that's being provided. As far as changes, CPO approval, of course, but that change is initiated through a written request, and that has to be received and reviewed. And again, you would receive written approval or disapproval based after that. LCP tracker, the payroll system that we use to monitor, so Berlin outlines that we are able to run various reports as it pertains to EO and CRO, but also as it pertains to labor prevailing wages. So it's labor compliance to ensure employees are being paid the correct wages per the findings of the contract. That's all I have.
So again, did anyone come with specific questions?
How will
know how many, know what you need in this, the community, you have to have so many community workers.
So it's the CRO residency requirement, that's 50%. It requires you to have on any project, city project funded, 50% of the employees have to live in the city of Chicago. And then
Okay, now that's what I'm talking
the
about.
7.5%.
The 7.5.
And that's a minimum, that's a big hire.
Yeah, okay. Now, if you can't, I don't know, like, community, if you're a union shop, and if you, how do you go about finding these people in the community? Because it seems to be, if you're a union shop, you have to have certain qualifications to do certain things. What do you do?
You go to the, I'm going to say you go to the assist agencies. Yeah.
And the assist agencies and the chamber of commerce, so we have over 10, 15 assist agencies. They're basically chambers of commerce for each community. And you can come to the Department of Human Services, and we have a directory that you can look by, either the next code or a description of the commodities that you're looking for. But usually in the community, there's always a chamber of commerce. Whether it's South Shore Chamber of Commerce, Atlantic Chamber of Commerce, South Shore Chamber, there's always a chamber. There's a downtown chamber of commerce. So there's always a chamber of commerce that has businesses who are members who are ready to do work. They know how to meet people who these industries like.
Yes.
The alderman.
Alderman. That's a good resource.
So, yeah, it's probably someone in that community that has a business.
Does anyone else have questions?
I'm gonna ask this,
We are.
But I hope that you all will stay. The second half probably won't be that long because, they're gonna continue on and just talk about pay. So hopefully everybody will stay.
And we can still answer questions. We're here. We can still answer questions even though Victoria said.